The all-new and highly anticipated Brooks Cascadia Elite is available now, and I do have a pair in for test. I have not run in this shoe yet, but I have some very important thoughts on sizing that I want to share with you today. I have my sample pair in a US 10.5. I typically wear a size 10 in Brooks, as you can see here. I have pairs here of the Catamount 3 and Catamount 4 in a size 10. I also did receive a Ghost Trail, also in a US 10.5. This was a little bit of an accident. I had requested a size 10 from Brooks. They emailed me and said, oops, we shipped you a 10.5. Sorry about that. We are going to get you the correct size 10. Packages arrived. I decided to throw this one on just to see how it felt. So curious, obviously, with this shoe being highly anticipated. And as soon as I put my foot in there, I noticed, this fit is actually pretty good. I don't typically wear a 10.5 outside of any brands aside from La Sportiva here. We'll talk about that in a second. But half did feel pretty good, and it got me thinking. I had just run 17 miles in the Terrex Sylan 2, which is releasing this Friday, March 6th. I have that one in a US 9.5, so a full size down from this shoe in my hand here to this shoe here. And I did notice the fit was definitely a bit more dialed in this one compared to the Sylan Pro of the past. Look out for my first run review, 17-mile test run in this shoe coming at the end of this week. I'm going to have a discussion at the beginning, very important about Terrex sizing. If you're on the fence or in between sizes with Terrex, they are a little bit tricky. They tend to run big in the past, so I have a big segment in that video discussing that in particular. But it got me thinking when I got this 10.5, is this a Brooks thing? Is it something specific about this shoe, or is it really, I'm finding a lot of the super shoes are just having more dialed fit these days, and is that perhaps something you have to take into consideration when you're sizing your shoes, those specific super shoes with those specific type of dialed fits? Again, we're going to look at a different shoe in a minute, the Ghost Trail here, which is not quite a super shoe, not nearly a super shoe in fact, but it does have a little bit of a roomier fit in a 10.5, more standard, I would say, compared to my normal sizing. Just to give you the quick specs here, US 10.5 here, I've got 10.1 ounces, 286 grams. I measure 39 millimeters at the heel. They spec 40-34 for a 6 mil drop. All of this you'll see in my full review when I get this shoe out on the trails, of course. This shoe reminded me very much of the Hoka Tecton X3 from the moment I first laid eyes on it, even in pictures. Obviously, ankle gaiter is certainly a thing. Knowing that this DNA gold midsole here is also 100% PIBA, similar to the Tecton X3. Flexible carbon plate in the mix, similar but not exactly the same kind of shape here with the Cascadia Elite, but very reminiscent of the Tecton X3. I thought that this would be like the main comparison once I did get this shoe in for test. I was measuring the stack. Again, I got 39 at the heel here, very substantial underfoot, 6 mil drop, 39-33 based on my measurements. I went back and remeasured the Tecton X3. I got this shoe a few years ago, and it was probably before the time where I was really measuring shoes straight out of the box and getting that actual heel measurement. I measured it just now, and I got actually 34 at the heel. So this shoe is spec'd at 40-35 5 mil drop. So it's spec'd exactly the same as this one. But at this point, after a couple years of miles in it, PBEX seems to have compressed. Again, I don't have that initial measurement fresh out of the box for this shoe. But at this point in time, this is 34 millimeters at the heel compared to 39 millimeters in this shoe. I don't think it's that much of a drastic difference where I can't test them side by side, but it is noticeable when I had one shoe on each foot there. So something to pay attention when I do the full A/B test on these two. Coming back to this shoe here, you've got a matrix upper similar to here, but you could clearly see these carbon fiber weave knit pattern going all throughout both sides of the upper here. It really holds the foot well. Again, I'm just trying it on in the house, but I could feel, and the moment that I put it on, that the 10.5 was perhaps not too bad. Perhaps this is a happy accident getting this one. I do have a 10 on the way, so I'm going to compare the two sizes once I do get them. I would say a little bit of tapered shape to the toe box, not much. I'm not going to call this pointy by any stretch, but having it on foot, especially with the well-wrapping matrix upper here, just seems like a little bit at the front. It kind of narrows just a little. It doesn't keep the width. It doesn't seem as wide as the Catamount 4, which I'm going to take out of the box in a moment here. But again, 10.5 just feels really good. Coming back to the Terrex shoe, 9.5. The fit felt much more dialed compared to the same 9.5 that I have in the Sylan Pro. Talked about that in their description, just like making the fit more dialed, and it just wraps around the foot really well, similar to the feel I get in this one. This one does, of course, have more volume than this shoe here. I have a couple of other pretty sweet models here in for test. Rocket X Trail, and of course the Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra 2 here. This one, check the specs real quick. This one is a full 41 at the heel, 41.35. That's my actual measurement. ASU 2 here, I have at 38.30. This one I've got at 10.1 ounces, same exact weight as I have with the Cascadia Elite here. This one comes in at a pretty notable 9.3 ounces, so higher stack here, 41.35. ATPU foam, and that is a difference I've talked about when you've seen my reviews and videos with the Kip Run, Kip Summit race model. That ATPU foam, you seem to be able to jam a lot of foam in there, keep the energy of the foam, like it doesn't feel ridiculously soft and like you're squishing into it, has that good response, but also that lightness, 9.3 ounces at a higher stack than both of these models, and of course at this point the Tecton X3 as well. So this is going to be an incredible shoe, I can imagine. But coming back to the fit here, I've got this one in a 10, I've got the Speed Ultra 2 in a 10. I'm gonna try all these shoes on foot. Take the camera aside over there so you can see what I'm talking about here. There is a little bit more taper to this Rocket X Trail with that huge stack. I think they really wanted to dial the foot shape in a bit. You don't want to be kind of wiggling around on top of that midsole. You have some of that sidewall design in here. Again, look forward to a full review on this one, but coming to the sizing, typically wear a 10 in Hoka, got my X3s in a 10, and I also have the Speedgo 7 in the 10, by the way. Check out my comparison videos, full review on that one, 35 miles of weekend long running in that model. This one has a little bit more taper to the toe box in the 10 right here. I find myself a little bit closer to the front, and same thing here with the Speed Ultra 2. I talked about them dialing in the sizing, perhaps version 1 being a little bit missized relative to, say, other US 10s and even other Adidas shoes. This one, they've dialed in the fit. I had a comment talking about it being an F1 cockpit from in my last Q&A, and that's kind of how it feels. You do also have that little bit of taper here. Again, you have the narrow platform in this one, so I think a lot of these shoes, as they go up in stack, and with this one especially being narrow, this one going up in stack, keeping width, but you're still kind of up high in these shoes. I think what we're seeing is a lot of the uppers are really dialing in the fit to hold your foot on top of these Tifosi Sanctum SL shades here, new in for test, by the way. I think, and this is just based on my own personal testing and my own feeling, I used to always be ultra sized in a 10. Like clearly in any shoe, I could run a US 10 and be good for a long ultra, 100K, 100 miler, and have enough toe box space, enough space in front of the toes, full thumbs width, in fact, a lot of times in a 10, but I kind of feel like that's not necessarily the case anymore. I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm at like 3/4 thumbs width up front in a US 10. It could be due to the more secure uppers that you're seeing in a lot of these super shoe models. It is different in regular models. Again, we're gonna look at that Ghost Trail at the end. A lot of these shoes also do have big rockers. So talked about the huge rocker in the Speed Ultra 2. Not so much in this shoe. This is a different style of shoe, similar to the, more so the Prodigio Pro here, although the Prodigio Pro does have quite a rocker up front. I'm going to talk probably in a separate video about sizing with these Prodigio models. Coming back to the toe rocker, with that big stack to keep it moving, you're generally seeing bigger toe sweeps up front, and something I always talk about. The bigger the toe sweep up front, the more that's going to push your toes together up front, and certainly as you're going through your ground strike pattern, it's kind of squeezing the toes together up front. So whereas in the past you may have had, say, flatter rockers up front, and this is just kind of, again, my personal feeling, I feel like with those more flatter toe boxes without the big huge rocker up front, the 10s has always been good for me. But now with these toe boxes and the rockers, I kind of feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm at like 3/4 up front, not a full thumbs width in the US 10. Perhaps having this 10.5 is really, could be the trigger to having me think that maybe I should be perhaps looking at a full size up in my true to size in some of these very secure fitting, high stacked super shoes. Again, this ASU 2 here, it's a 10, feel very comfortable in here. One thing to note about these shoes, again, heel hold greatly improved in the ASU 2, and definitely a point of emphasis when I do my review of the Rocket X Trail. They went full on heel cup, rounded, massive padding around here. I think they really kind of solved the issue of heel hold in a stiff kind of high stack plated shoe here. Just go full on with the padding. Don't worry about the weight because you have the ATPU to add some lightness in, offset that weight, and then maybe really pad up the heel so you don't have to worry about it. This heel cup feels great, as does the Cascadia Elite here. They have this matrix upper, they have this booty design. One of the weak points of the Tecton X3 was being the heel hold. There's little kind of bolsters along the side here, kind of what you saw in the ASU 1, a little bit bigger in here, a little bit better heel hold, but the upper as a whole is not as well wrapping, not as secure holding your foot onto this midsole here. Just barely does it. This one, again, I haven't run in it yet, but you could tell a lot by trying a shoe on and taking a look. They have a full U-shaped padding all around here, so they didn't just go with those little side bolsters that you see in the Speed Ultra 1. In the 2, they kind of did go full U-shape. They added a little thinner section at the heel here in this ASU 2. Here, it's even thicker around the heel. So inside the shoe, you have a section of kind of like black material in here and a full integrated heel similar to what you would see in a traditional upper here. Typically with those booty type uppers, certainly with the ankle collars, I think they have trouble in getting a full kind of normal padded heel collar around there. But here they seem to have created a section in here and put it in there. I'm going to talk about this in my full review down the line, but you have a full U shape around the heel. So heel hold is excellent in these shoes, and that is another factor when it comes back to potentially sizing up even a little bit more in some of these types of well-held shoes. As they start to figure out the heel hold issue with a high stack shoe, with a stiff kind of shoe, you got a carbon fiber plate in here. This is not overly flexible, so you're going to have that inherent issue of holding the heel down. They really did a good job with the interior heel padding, ankle padding in here to hold the foot down. It feels great as I'm walking around it, as does the Rocket X Trail here. So as these brands figure out that heel padding with the carbon fiber plated shoes, I think that is going to lead me personally, and I would suggest you runners out there, to look into potentially going up that half size. You want to really have, especially these models are very long distance shoes. Like, these are high stack shoes. You can run them in shorter races for sure if you want that cushion comfort no matter what distance or duration you're running. But once you get into 100K or 100-mile territory, you really want to have that full thumbs width from the start of the race to account for foot expansion and just natural kicking stuff out on the trails. If you're a full thumbs width away, that's less banging on your toes, less losing your toenails. You don't want to do that, okay? You want to have that space to account for that. So if the upper can hold your foot really well, then you don't really have to worry about that. Take a quick look at these Prodigio Pros over here while I'm at it. I've got this one in a 10.5 here. I always talked about going a full size up in Prodigio Pro or La Sportiva as a baseline. I asked La Sportiva, I reached out, I really wanted to have one of these white shoes, but I also wanted to have another size up so that I could test it in more longer distances against some of these other real super shoe models out there. This one at my US 10.5, very well secure fit, similar to all of these other models, but with the big toe sweep, even at a US 10.5 here, I really don't have a lot of thumb space up front ahead of the toes. It's kind of weird to have that huge of a size, but not have that toe space that I would want for longer distances. Let me check my EU sizing here. This is a 43.5, so I requested an 11, and I said US 11 here. I got this one, I tried it on, I'm like, wow, that's pretty roomy. Between a 10.5 and 11, it seems like this is very comfortable. Again, coming back to the foothold of some of these uppers, you got power wire mesh here with the La Sportiva. They just hold the foot so well. All of these shoes, I think, this one's kind of lagging behind, but this is, of course, one of the older models, and Hoka does have the X4 on the way. So out of all the models on the table here, these ones just really hold the foot really well, even at a size US 11 here. So putting it on at first, I was like, wow, that's kind of a big gap between 10.5 and US 11. And then I did get a comment and said, well, there may be differences in the EU sizing. And I think this was the point where it really triggered, like, wait a second, is this really the next size up? Let me check my EU sizing. This is marked as a US 11, so half US size up, but it is marked as an EU 44.5. I believe, and I think this is pretty much confirmed, La Sportiva uses EU sizing as a basis of their actual sizing of their shoes. So this is a 43.5, and I have a 44.5 here, so full EU size up, but it's only a difference of one US half size. So there is, I don't know what they would call it. I believe it would be still a 10.5, but I think somebody was commenting a 10.5 plus, which would be an EU 44. So I'm missing an EU size in between the two models here, but this shoe still fits really good. There's definitely more volume in the toe box, definitely more width, but I still feel comfortable even in this US 11, EU 44.5, whatever you want to call it here. I'm a full EU size up at the end of the day from this one, and it still fits very well. Of course, I'm not as dialed. If I was running super fast in technical terrain, dancing around, I'd want the secure fit of this one. Again, I ran the Mammoth 23K in this one. Pretty steep up and down, going up the Dragon's Back ascent over the other side, and I didn't have any issues with this being tight. I'm going up a full size. My point I'm trying to make here is I think you should think about maybe making, or at least looking at, higher sizes in some of these shoes. A lot of people talked about this shoe feeling jammed up in it for this or that reason, and other super shoes, a lot of people, if you have issues with sizing, I think with a lot of these types of uppers, maybe consider going up as a start at a half size more, whatever, than you think you would have sized up if you were going to size up, if that makes any sense. Okay, you have your true to size, you want to go maybe a half size up for ultra size. At least to me, I might start considering going up a full size for my ultra sizing from my true to size. So from 9.5 US to 10.5 US for some of these types of shoes. Like this one I have in a 10, and I'm pretty sure I could have a 10.5 in this one, and it would probably be a more spacious and comfortable fit up front. This Terrex, again, Terrex runs a little bit differently. I have a US 9.5 here. They definitely run big. I could definitely have a US 10 in this model, and the Rocket X Trail, I've got this in a 10. I'm not quite sure with this high stack, but I'm gonna try them on again in a second. As I have my toes in this shoe, I'm kind of close to the front in a US 10. I could potentially go 10.5 in here. I think the point of this video here is it was perhaps a happy accident that I have a US 10.5 in this shoe. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I'm gonna go out and run in this shoe today, and I think it feels absolutely great. The fit is perfect on my foot. So another point, I also don't think I have a high volume foot compared to some other runners out there. If you think you have a high volume foot, or you've watched some of my videos and you know kind of how your sizing fits relative to what I talk about in my videos, and again, if you yourself have a higher volume fit based on how I talk about fit and sizing in my videos, that's even more of a point for you to maybe consider going up that half a size in a lot of these shoes. All right, let's head over there. Let's try some of these on. All right, here we are, Cascadia Elite, US 10.5 here, Rocket X Trail, US 10. Check the Cascadia Elite. I've got a full thumbs width at US 10.5. Perfectly fine. If you're gonna run 100 miles in this shoe, this is what you want. All right, let's bend down here, flex the shoe, how you would be running it, maybe when you're climbing up a hill. I'm still about here. I'm not touching the front. This is what you want. You don't want to be jammed up in the front. This is a good test for you when you're trying your shoes. Let's try the Rocket X Trail here. 10 here, but I see where my toe is. I don't have the same full thumbs width in US 10 here. Maybe 3/4, maybe even a little less. You could see how a little tighter up here. Bend over here. I'm getting very close. I'm not at the front yet, but I'm very close to the tip of this shoe. Again, I'm not sure how technical of a race I would be running this shoe in. It would be more, I would think, flatter, faster type of stuff. So you wouldn't have to worry about so much jamming this one, but I'm very close at this point. So if you think about, again, foot swelling and kicking things, if you were comfortable enough running this in a technical rocky race for a long time, yeah, you might want to go up even a little more here. Speed Ultra 2 here. Again, awesome upper fit here. Love this. Perfect for my foot. US 10. Again, I'm short of a full thumbs here in a US 10. Squat down here, and I'm practically touching the front here in a US 10. And this feels 100% secure on my foot. Heel hold is excellent. Both of these shoes. So another one, potentially 10.5 here. Sylan 2 here. I don't know why I brought all left shoes out here. This is the most dialed fit of any of the models I have out here. Again, US 9.5, so this is the smallest size. And I'm not a full thumbs with either, maybe 3/4 here, but this is a different type of shoe. You'll see in my test video coming out later this week. I like this sizing, about less than full thumbs width for what I would utilize this shoe for, what kind of terrain. Totally good, but it's definitely a more dialed fit. You'll see in my review video compared to the Sylan Pro, and certainly compared to the LD4. I'll talk about this a lot. Very secure and dialed fit in the shoe. Great. Prodigio Pros here. By the way, I'm using a Jogology sock here for my testing. I chose this specifically because it's kind of like a mid-weight sock, kind of thickness you would, or at least most runners would use. Definitely for this Sylan 2, you'll see in my video, I wore a thinner sock for that test run with the dialed fit. I would typically probably run a little thinner sock in this smaller Prodigio Pro. Again, US 10.5, US 11 here, EU 43.5, EU 44.5, and they both just fit good. I'm definitely 2/3, a half. I'm pretty close in here. Again, I would be wearing a thinner sock with this shoe. Again, I raced in this shoe, 23K, pretty steep vert, no problems in the toe box. So this shoe certainly fits me well. There's an EU 44 in the middle here between these two sizes that I have here. So maybe that would be my essential or perfect sizing here. But there's my thumb. I've got about a full thumbs width here in this 44.5 here, and it is quite comfortable. I definitely have more, like I can move my foot around a little bit in the toe box here. There's definitely more space around here and on the big toe side. So I'm talking to you La Sportiva fanatics out there. You have more variability in sizing than you think with the Prodigio Pro, and probably the Max is another one that came to mind that felt tight for me at the toes in a US 10.5. I could probably, or I could definitely be at a 44 or a 44.5 EU in that shoe, and it would probably be way better for me because the fit here, the heel hold is, there's no loss at all, being a full EU size up here, and the midfoot hold is essentially the same. I just have more space in the toe box here. This is kind of the main point that I'm getting to here. These shoes with these well-wrapping fits, and especially the better heel hold in all of these models here, you can go up a little bit, probably a little bit more in sizing than you think in these types of shoes. So, if you had issues with the Prodigio Pro, maybe see if you can go up a half a size or even more and then see how it feels. I think people generally would worry about the shoe being loose overall, but it is absolutely not. I have the same level of foothold from here back at a full EU size difference here. I just have more comfort in the toe box here, which is what I was looking for testing, for especially some comparison reviews coming up. Final sizing checks here. Catamount 4, this is a US 10. I'm close to a full thumbs, not quite. This is definitely more space in front of the toe box, but there's quite a bit of volume in this one. And at the time when I got this shoe, I thought this was quite a roomy US 10 here. Now that I have this one, even in a 10.5 from the same brand, I feel the fit is just as secure in a half size up, and I have that touch of extra space in front of the toes, which is definitely beneficial. So again, may depend on what you're looking for and what you're looking to use your shoe in. If you don't want all that extra space, maybe you're not thinking of one of these or any of these particular models for a certain extreme long distance, maybe you'll be okay going up just a half size. Again, I consider my true to size US 9.5, so at 10 here, this is still up a half size, and it's quite comfortable and spacious in the toe box. I wouldn't necessarily want to have a 10.5 here, but again, it is not a detriment here. Final illustration here, Brooks Ghost Trail. Okay, so I've got this one in a 10.5. This is a shoe I have tried it on already. This is not the first time I'm putting it on. It's definitely very large in a 10.5. My toe's like way here. I've got, I don't know, a thumbs width plus more in this shoe, and I feel, obviously not the same type of upper, I feel very kind of loose inside of this shoe. So these are both 10.5s, but again, I think this is further illustrating my point. There's a difference between these shoes, these types of models that have these type of new super secure, well foot wrapping uppers here compared to regular shoes. So this shoe I'm definitely going to have to pass off to somebody else because the sizing is just way too big. I cannot run in this shoe at all, but I'm definitely going to use this shoe. Sizing feels right on. So thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. As you can see, I've got a lot of shoes, a lot of test miles to run going forward. Full reviews and comparisons are coming up on the channel. I really thought it was important though, especially with some of these shoes coming out fairly recently, the Cascadia Elite for sure. If you want to order that, you may want to think about sizing carefully. Let me know down in the comments if you have this shoe, what you think about my thoughts about this shoe specifically, and also maybe some of the fits that we're seeing now, especially I talked about enhanced heel hold, that kind of thing. Are you finding these shoes fitting a lot better these days? Perhaps consider going up a half a size. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you in the backyard or out on the trails for a super shoe test run.